Hello there, beautiful pixels. My name is Elytrium, and welcome back to another Minecraft Bedrock tutorial with your favorite cardigan-wearing Minecraft character, where today in this episode, I'm going to show you how to build this relatively simple to build and highly productive Froglight farm for your Minecraft Bedrock 1.21 plus world. This farm can generate up to 1,800 froglights an hour, roughly 600 of each type, plus or minus some amount of gas tears, gunpowder, and also magma cream that fall from the associated mobs, making it highly effective if you need to gather a ton of these resources in a short period of time. Additionally, this farm only requires a minecart and a couple powered rails that you can power using torches or any other type of redstone device, making it very resource efficient. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into the tutorial. And if you find this video useful at any point in time, make sure you go ahead, hit the like button, consider subscribing, and let me know down below what your rates ended up looking like. Now, while most Froglight farms will take advantage of the magma spawner that exists inside of these bastions over here, you can actually get better rates by just coming over here to a basalt delta and finding the largest lava lake that you can. These lava lakes are not super deep, meaning that we can easily fill it in, and once we mine out all the area underneath it, it is a great way to force magma spawn down there and then capture them all using frogs. So the first thing you're going to want to do is just find yourself a large basalt delta with a large lava lake, and then we're going to go ahead and mark out the area that we need in order to fill this up. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to do is find the center of where your farm is going to be, and then you're going to mark out 12 blocks from the center in all 4 cardinal directions. This is going to give us a 25 wide diameter circle, which we will then later fill in, place a glass roof over, and use for our spawn chambers. Once you have the diameter done, you're going to extend out from any side 3 blocks, followed by 2 blocks, then another 2 blocks, 1, another 2 in the opposite direction, another 2 in the opposite direction, and then 3 around. And then once you have that, you're just going to repeat this pattern over and over and over again until you get a thin diameter circle. Again, the pattern here is going to be corner to corner, so 3 blocks at the top, followed by 2 in the same direction, 1, then 1, and then 2 blocks going in the perpendicular direction, 2 blocks going in the perpendicular direction, and then finishing off with 3 blocks until you end up at the point of that other radius. You're going to complete this until you're all the way around this circle, at which point you should have something that looks like this. Now at this point, you've probably been dealing with a whole bunch of gas and magma cubes giving you a lot of trouble, so let's go ahead and get rid of that problem. And we're going to do that by filling up the top layer of this lava lake with any type of solid block. You're just going to grab any type of solid block you want. Stoneworks, I'm using quartz here just because it's abundant, but any type will work and you don't need to be too picky about it. Once that is done, go ahead and grab yourself some glass blocks. It can be any other type of block that you want, but I prefer glass because I like the natural light that comes in from the lava lake, and I like being able to see out of my farms. But you're going to build a 2-high wall around the entirety of the farm, as we've shown here. If a gas spawn and does decide to shoot a fireball, you just make sure you get that return to sender. It will also give you the added bonus of getting the new tiers disc over here on Minecraft Bedrock and Java. But once that is done, you're going to go ahead and build up a 3rd layer and then cover the entire roof of this with a layer of glass. Again, this can be any other type of block that you want. I just prefer having glass in here because it does make the build a little bit brighter and it allows you to see out of the farm very easily. With your farm cleared out from all the nasties trying to get you, you can now come over here to each of these spots that we have marked out with our floor and replace it with any type of gravity block. This will work with sand, powdered concrete, and as well as gravel. I think that sand is usually easier to get, and you don't need to have a whole bunch. As you can see here, this lava lake in particular is filling up with maybe 6 or so pieces of sand all until it hits the bottom. So you can just fill this up, and then if you run into a point where you run out of sand, you can usually just reclaim all that material by mining out a section that you already have dug out and filled in. From here, you're going to mine out this inner wall of material until all of it is gone. So like I said earlier, you're going to reclaim all this sand. This is a little bit tedious of a process, but it's going to be completely safe while you're in here, as long as you've ensured that you filled in all of these spots here. We're going to make sure that you leave this outer wall of sand intact that is going to be your wall for the lava. If later you want to replace that with a more durable block, you're more than welcome to. However, it is not necessary since you aren't going to have anything shooting up at you and causing damage to this. So go ahead, grab your shovel, grab your pickaxe, and just get to work with clearing out all of this material. We are going to go down all the way to bedrock level, so all the way to Y level 5. So make sure you have plenty of shulkers if you want to reuse any of this material later, and get digging. Once you hit bedrock level, again at Y level 5, go ahead and grab yourself any type of solid block, and then we are going to fill in the floor. You can do this either at the bedrock level or one level above. I would recommend that you do it above the highest level of bedrock because that will give you more flexibility to place in any powered rails, which is going to power our minecart. So just go ahead and fill in this entire floor as shown here. Once you have this floor filled in, go ahead and pick one side to be your collection system. Place down a single chest, it can be a double chest if you'd like, and then 5 hoppers feeding into one another, and then finally into the chest. This is where all of our items are ultimately going to end up. I recommend at some point you probably hook up a more reliable sorting system. Use my copper golem item sorter if you are so enchanted by it. And then we are going to go ahead and place a whole bunch of regular tracks and powered rails in here. And the best part about this is that there's no particular pattern that's going to work perfectly. My general strategy is start with your rails, and then we are going to form just a giant series of loops. So as you can see here, I just have rails right here that are going to connect to one another in this kind of crazy loop. I'm just going to go back and forth over and over and over again until I have a rail system that is covering most of the area here. You can, of course, certainly choose to do this using just rails that are bouncing back and forth, but I have found with 2 minecarts, this system is more than reliable enough to gather all the materials that you need. It really doesn't take a whole lot more than this, and to be totally honest with you, this is a little bit fun to figure out if you have a puzzle-like brain. But if you're interested in just having a simple minecart loop back and forth, you can, of course, just blow out the walls that are right next to this and have a rail that is bouncing back and forth in a very, very simple loop. Once that is done, you're just going to want to strategically place either redstone torches or any type of powered block. I'm going to use just solid redstone blocks here because they're relatively easy to get access to with a witch farm, and you are just going to fill these in every so often just so that you can place in a couple of powered rails. Again, there really is no major strategy for this other than make sure you get a couple on every row and at every juncture. And once you have that in place, you should have free agency to move any type of cart around as much as you want. Minecarts in Bedrock can be a little bit picky, so make sure that you also clear out this bottom row by 1 block along the outer cart rail. Carts will have a tendency to generate friction and rub up against this, which will occasionally cause them to get stuck, and clearing out this wall will help them avoid that problem. Once you have all that dug out, go ahead and place down a single hopper minecart and just validate real quickly that it's going to complete the entire circuit of the track. Again, that you notice there might be a few spots here where you are not going to collect items, but on the whole, that's going to be very few and far between, and usually the minecart will end up grabbing everything anyway. So if you do have a few spots that are open, I wouldn't worry about it too much. This farm is plenty effective even if 2 or 3 spots aren't covered by the hopper cart. And for added efficiency, you can go ahead and add a second minecart to this track as well. That will just speed up your collection rate, and to be totally honest, it looks really cool. I recommend just letting this cart get about halfway through before you spawn in the other one, and then just pop that down on the track so that they're kind of just going at the same pace. And if you're like me, you'll find that this is a very, very, very satisfying thing to watch. Try not to get too mesmerized by it because we are going to need to do a couple more things. The next part of this build is going to be relatively simple. We're just going to add a layer of blocks on top of this minecart rail that we just placed down. This is going to end up being our spawn platform where all of our magma cubes are going to spawn, as well as where we're going to place all of our frogs. Next, we're going to mark out the center of this farm, build up 2 blocks, and then place a lower slab, and then we're going to make a 3x3 platform composed entirely of lower slabs. Using lower slabs here will ensure that this platform is not spawnable by magma cubes, keeping the iron golems that we'll place in here briefly safe. Make sure also that you wrap this entire area with at least a 3 tall, high set of fences. This can be any type of fence that you want. This will keep the magma cubes out and ensure that they are only attracted and hostile to the iron golems that we place in here later. Once that is in place, you can just grab yourself a couple blocks of iron and then a carved pumpkin head. It's relatively easy to spawn these guys in here. Just build them against one of the fence gates and then they will plop right down here on the floor. You don't need more than 2 of these. You can most likely get away with 1. However, I would recommend having 2. That gives you a little bit of insurance in case you're AFKing and something happens to one of your friendly golems. Next, 1 layer above the floor that we just placed down, you're going to place down alternating patterns of powdered snow. Make sure that you're heading out to a type of snowy biome where you can collect a whole bunch of this. It's gonna take a couple of shulkers because there's a lot of powdered snow here. You don't need to fill this entire area in. However, if you want to, in order to speed up the rates just a little bit, you can, but I have found that on the whole, it really doesn't have much effect. Make sure that while you are doing this, you've also filled in the bottom directly beneath the copper golems or the iron golems that we have here, just to make sure that no mobs get trapped underneath there and then are rendered effectively unkillable by your frogs. Next, you're to come back up to the top of the farm directly above the center and you're gonna make yourself a little platform. Again, I recommend using glass because I like seeing down into the farm, but you're gonna go down 4 blocks and then just create yourself a 5x5 platform here. I recommend that you also put walls up around this and then use some sort of scaffolding to make it easier to get in and out of. This needs to be protected from the sides as well, as occasionally you will have gas spawn in here, and if a gas spawns in here, sees you, flies up, and then shoots you, it's really gonna ruin your AFK session. Next, we need to grab our froggies. The best way to find these is to head over to a mangrove swamp, which will usually have a regular swamp next to it. The warm frogs will be located inside of the mangrove swamp, while our temperate frogs, these little orange guys here, will be located inside of the regular swamp. If you are wanting to get the cold frogs, we are going to need to breed these guys up and do a little bit of transporting, however. So you can breed these fellas using just slime and then carving out a small little bit of water. After their hearts go away, whoever is the one that's going to lay the eggs will try to hop over to the nearest body of water. You can expedite this, of course, though, by building yourself a little square puddle. Just make sure that it is at least 1 block deep, and then from there, these guys will just come right over here and then lay all their frog legs inside of here. The tadpoles will take a little while to spawn, but once they do, you can just grab yourself a bucket of water and then you can go ahead and pick them up. Again, make sure you're using a bucket of water and not a regular bucket, as you won't be able to pick them up otherwise. As you can see here, I have a regular bucket. It just doesn't work. You get a bucket of water, however, and then you get a tadpole here in a bucket. I recommend that you get at least maybe 5 of these. It will give you a little bit of insurance in case you lose any of your frogs in transit, and since breeding these guys up does take a really long time for the cold frogs, just gives you that little bit of extra insurance. The cold frogs need to grow up inside of a cold biome, so come over here to one that has snow, place down buttons first, and then fill this up with water. If you don't place buttons down, guess what? Your frogs, your little tadpoles here, they're gonna hop out as soon as this water freezes, and then the next thing you know, you've got 5 dead tadpoles that you're needing to rebreed up again. These guys can take up to 20 minutes to spawn, so just sit around. And eventually they'll turn into these handsome devils over here. From here, you can just grab some leads, make sure they don't hop into that powder snow and freeze to death, and then lead them far, far away from this place, because believe it or not, they can still die, especially over here in the powdered snow. You have a couple methods for overworld transportation. I would recommend a nether portal if you can get one close enough, but again, transporting these frogs super duper long distances can prove to be a little bit of a pain, and occasionally getting them through the portal can also be a little bit frustrating. So just make sure that you place them in an area that they are willing to get pushed through, and you should have no problem. If you don't have easy access to another portal, which is entirely possible depending upon how far away your basalt delta is, your next best option is to just grab yourself a happy gas and load them up with frogs inside of chest boats. I recommend chest boats because that ensures that you only get one frog at a time and reduces the likelihood of your happy gas deciding to take your frogs for a little dip here in the lava. Just make sure you leave an opening here that you can just drop these mobs on in. From here, you can cut the cord, get rid of your happy gas, hopefully by moving it somewhere safe, and once you have all your frogs in here, it's just a matter of AFKing. AFKing can be done up here at this platform. Again, just make sure that you have a nice wall around you to protect you from any potential gas that spawn. You should have any gas that spawn down there on that platform, and they should immediately just freeze to death. However, I have seen at times that they will actually notice you and then get distracted, which is why I recommend having a wall around you so that they cannot pathfind for you. As long as you get rid of the horrifying screams, this is actually a relatively peaceful existence. As you see here, our frogs will start eating these smaller sized magma cubes as soon as the snow breaks them down. These magma cubes don't take long to break down. The larger ones will break down almost instantly, and the smaller ones will shortly thereafterwards just from hopping around. You don't need to lead any of the frogs that you have in here. I do recommend that you let them kind of free roam. That avoids any type of problems and helps ensure you get kind of a more equal distribution. I do recommend you have at least 3 types of each frog in here. So 3 of the temperate, 3 of the warm, and then 3 of the cold as well. That seems to help a lot with rates. It also helps ensure that you are cycling through more and more magma cubes. Once you have all this though, you can just AFK, and after an hour, you'll have roughly 1,800 pieces of froglights, plus any of the other spawn drops from the mobs, such as gunpowder, gas tears, and magma cream. And that's all you need to do. Again, it's a relatively simple farm, a little bit time consuming, but it's definitely worth the effort, especially if you're needing more froglights than a magma spawner can give you. Let me know down in the comments what rates you ended up getting from this farm. Like I said, I was getting about nearly 1,800 froglights from this, plus or minus the other drops. And if you want to build any other type of farm, make sure you check out the one that YouTube recommended up here. As always, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.